Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the CAS 360 Product Update webinar. My name is Shami, and I'll be running the session today. So firstly, let me start by saying thank you for taking the time to join us today. Today's session is a repeat of the product update sessions we conducted in person about 2 weeks ago. We had sessions in Auckland, Tauranga, and Christchurch this time, and it was really great to catch up with the CAS 360 users and showcase what we have been working on over the last few months. So today's session is mainly for those of you who couldn't make it to those in-person sessions, and I'll cover some of the main topics we discussed there. Now, if you do have any questions, feel free to type in the Zoom Q&A section, and I will try and answer them as we go along. I also have some of our team members monitoring your questions as well, and they'll be able to help out today as well. So just a quick intro of our team here today. So I have Ra here, who is your account manager. I'm sure most of you have spoken to him before. And we also have Kajal and Jess, who are our business development managers in New Zealand, and they'll be monitoring your Q&A as well. And as always, this session will be recorded, and you will receive a copy of the recording as well as the slides at the end of the day today. So before we jump into the product update, just a quick reminder on general product training that we offer. For your day-to-day software support, we do have live chat that is available via CAS 360, and also you can log a support call if you prefer to speak to a team member of our support team to help you with any of your queries. We also run regular online training sessions. So we just finished up one session last week, and the next session that's coming up is on the 13th of November, and that is the CAS 360 Essentials training course. Now, this one is particularly useful if you have any new team members joining your practice, to learn the basics of CAS 360, and also if there is anyone who wants to a bit of a refresher of CAS 360, the essential training sessions are quite useful. All right, so let's have a look at what we are going to cover today. So we'll start off with the latest CAS 360 new features. I will run through some of the main areas. We have a huge list really, but I will run through some of the key points that we discussed. We'll also have a look at some of the suggested topics by the attendees today. So there were a few topics that were sent across where you would want sort of a bit of a refresher discussed today. So I will run through those. We'll have a look at BGL ID and some improvements we've added around BGL ID. And we'll discuss our roadmap for the next couple of months and some exciting changes coming soon. And of course, as I mentioned before, throughout the session, we'll run through your Q&A. So feel free to put them through into the Zoom Q&A section. All right, let's have a look at what's new. So I have a long list of features that I want to cover today. We'll start off with Please Sign integration. So a new digital signing provider that we've added to our CAS 360 ecosystem. Next, we'll have a look at company voluntary administration workflow. We'll have a look at company notes in document production, selecting different email addresses when you're processing transactions, director's interest improvements, AML sent to reviewer workflow, new merge fields that we've added, and shareholder view. So these are some of the key areas that I'm going to run through today. So each of those topics that I just displayed, I have also broken it down into a few more detailed areas in the next few slides. So I'll run through those. So let's start off with the Please Sign integration. So this is a brand new digital signing provider that we have added to our ecosystem. Now, if you are thinking about implementing digital signing or looking at your options, we've added one more to the mix of things. So you have a few options available. So it really depends on your price point and the features that you require for your practice when it comes to digital signing. So Please Sign is one of those that you can have a look as well. And as always, all our documents can be digitally signed. Even the forms as well that are filed to Companies Office, and Please Sign documents are Companies Office approved as well. So let's jump into CAS 360 and have a look at what Please Sign integration looks like. So that's my CAS 360. Your first step is to start off sign up with Please Sign. So with Please Sign, you'll see I'm just jumping into the Please Sign website here. You've got a pricing module here that displays your pricing options. So there's a free trial as well if you want to start off with that and see if that suits your practice. And there are a few additional options here as well to decide on. So once you have signed up with Please Sign, you'll simply need a username and password to start off that integration with CAS 360. And in CAS 360, you'll simply need to jump into your settings screen. And then under your electronic signing options here, electronic signing integrations, you'll see all the digital signing providers. So as you know, we have an integration with DocuSign, Adobe Sign, and Fuse Sign. Again, very similar process to what I'm showing you today with Please Sign. I've got all of them activated, so you simply need one and that you'll be good to go. Please Sign here, you'll click on Go to BGL Integrations, and that'll open up the settings screen where you'll be able to add in your username and passwords. So once you've added your Please Sign integration, that's active. I'll jump into my CAS 360 and let's have a look at signing a document using Please Sign. So I'll select one of my test companies here. Let's jump into Offices and have a look at a basic director appointment transaction. So I've got Joe here that I want to appoint as a director for my company, and I've selected the print toggle, and I'll jump into the prepare form screen. And in my prepare form screen, I've got all these documents that I want to sign. Let's say I want, I'll turn off the shareholder min res, say I don't want that signed. So all the documents that have a little pen icon can be digitally signed. So if I go into my send all button, CAS 360 will add in those signatory locations for each one of those documents. It will identify who the signatory should be for those documents, and it will bring up the email that should go out to those signatories. So just with Please Sign, there's a small difference compared to the other providers here. One thing you need to remember is every time a signatory signs a document, they must select the click to finish button to complete that signing loop. Now you'll see that little pop-up and I'll run through those as well. So you'll see these are the signatories that you need to sign the document, and the CAS 360 digital signing email has appeared here. And I'll simply click the send button to send the document off to your signatories. So that email has been sent off to all the signatories. If you jump into your document screen here, you'll be able to see it says that your director appointment, and it says please sign sent to client, which means the documents have been sent to the clients via Please Sign. I'll jump into my emails because I redirected Joe's email to my email here just so we can have a quick look. So here we go. These are the emails that the signatories have received. So this is Joe's email, and you'll see Joe will simply click on the Review Documents button, and that'll start the document digital signing process using Please Sign. So you click on Review Documents, and up comes the document that you just prepared in CAS 360. So you click to proceed here, and this is your CAS 360 document. So this is your change summary. So Joe simply has to select the next button that'll directly take him to the location that he has to sign. So you click on please sign here. Please sign offers all the options of you can draw your signature, you can choose a signature, or you can upload a signature that you have attached. Very similar to all our other signing providers as well. So just for the demo today, I'll just select an existing one here, adopt the signature, and that will insert the signature into your document. Similarly, if I click the next button, it'll jump into the next spot where Joe has to sign, and I'll click on this one. Now this is your Form 9, your director appointment form, and I'll jump next. And this is your director resolution as well, where all your directors have to sign. Hit next here. The next one is your consent to act. And you'll see finally, once Joe completes the signing sections, you will see the click to finish button I mentioned before. So you must make sure that the signatories select this item to complete that document signing process. We have a lot of clients who simply select the cross at the top, and that won't complete the signing process. So you must make sure that you select the click to finish button. Once that's done, the signed document and the notifications are sent back to CAS 360 saying that Joe has signed the document. And then it needs to move on to the next signatory. So it tells us that we're waiting on Kate, Shami, and Wendy to sign the documents as well. And the next step is for Wendy to sign the documents and Kate to sign the documents and follow the same process. If I jump back into CAS 360, you'll see we'll receive notifications as well as and when your directors sign the document. So over here, you can see that the document was signed by Joe. Also, if I go into my document screen, once all the signatories have signed the documents, your document status will update. So I have one that I had previously prepared. So the one here right at the bottom, you'll be able to see it says, please sign signed by client. That means all the signatories for this specific transaction has completed the signing. So once the documents have been signed, you'll see in CAS 360 under the attachment section, you'll have all the original documents that we prepared. And right at the end, you'll be able to see the audit report of the digital signing and also the completed signed document also automatically attached into the attachment section here. So if I have a look at the attachments here, if I preview this, you'll be able to see the signed document. So all the entire document has been signed. And also if I go back and have a look at the audit report, it's a please sign audit report here. It shows the signatory details and when those signatories sign those documents. So as I mentioned before, very straightforward. You simply need a username and password subscription with please sign, plug that into CAS 360 and off you go. As you sign or complete the signing loop, those audit reports and your completed signed document will automatically get attached to CAS 360. And also those documents are approved by company's office. So that's your please sign integration. Let's have a look at our next features. So talking about signing, we'll have a look at some of the improvements that we've implemented around the signing options available in CAS 360. So the first one here is an option to set a default email address against a contact. Allow users to select different email addresses in document production and display all signatories in the sent email as well. So I'll run through those first. If I go back into CAS 360, let's look at the same example as before. Go into my Officer screen and let's look at Joe. So over here, Joe, if I select the little information icon, you'll be able to see the information around Joe, and you can see that I have an email linked to Joe. So let's go into Joe's contact record. So that opens up the contact screen for Joe, and it displays my primary email address that I have already set up for Joe. in CAS 360, you can assign multiple email address to a specific contact. So let's have a look at that scenario. Under information here, you can set up under communication details, you can select email, and you can give the email any label that you want. So something that you can easily identify that email. So you can call it a secondary email, personal email, and so on. So let's say I'm assigning a personal email address for Joe. So I'm calling it joe2@vglcorp.com.au. And at this point, you'll now be able to see the set as default option as well. So if you do want to set the personal email address as a default or your secondary email address as a default, you can toggle that option on as well. So I'm just going to leave that toggled off and hit the save button. So you can add as many email addresses as you want. And you can see my primary email address has a star against it because that's my primary. And for the secondary one here, if I want to set that as my default, I can set it under my options menu as well. So you can do it when you're doing your initial data entry using the toggle, or you can set it whenever you want, selecting the options menu as well. So that's step one, assigning multiple email address to a contact and also having the option to set a default against those email address. Let's have a look at how we can utilize these emails when you're processing your documents. So I'll go back into my transaction screen, just refresh this screen. So under my offices here, we'll have a look at that same transaction, the director appointment for Joe. If I go into my prepare form screen to have a look at my transactions, if you go into your electronic signing options menu here, you'll see a number of new improvements that we've added. So over here, you'll see the signing provider defaulted at the top, and here you'll be able to see all the signatories for the documents that I have selected. What we have done is in the screen here, and as you're processing your documents, you are able to change the email address as well. If you haven't set the default email or you want to change it to the personal email as well, just over here, you simply need to click on the label. You'll see the label against Joe's email address. It says primary. For this instance, let's say I want to send this email to Joe's personal email address. I'll simply click on the label and you'll be able to see all the emails that's attached to Joe's account. So at this point, I can select personal email, for example, and then change that email for this specific transaction only. Also at this point, if I wanted to make that personal email my default as well, I can simply select the star button, and going forward from here on, that secondary email will be used for all of Joe's transactions by default. So we have implemented a few options just to make the process easier for you. The next item that we've implemented here is to display all your signers in the email address. Now, if I jump back into the previous email that I showed you, the email that we generated previously for the director appointment document, you see that it says Dear, and it's got the signatories details. So it's got Dear Joe, Dear Wendy, Dear Kate, and so on. We did have wishlisted requests from clients where they would like to see all the signatories' names in the email. So in that scenario, you can select this option here before you process the transaction. And when we send out the email, it'll display all the signatories' names as a part of the main email address. So that's another item that we have as well. If I select the save button here and send that off, let's have a quick look at what the email looks like. So those are all my signatories, and hit send. So this email has been sent off. Jump into my emails again. So there we go. If I open up my email, you'll see that it says Dear Joe, Kate, Shami, and so on. So it's got all my signatories there. So it's simply selecting that option if you want the directors or the signatories to see all the other signatories who's involved in this document pack. So if I go back in here to my prepare form screen under electronic options, that's that option there, display all signers in the email. And another item that we've implemented is email the signers the completed signed document pack. If you have this option turned on, once the entire document pack has been signed and completed by all the signatories, it will send out the final document, the signed document pack to the signatories as well. So you must make sure this toggle is turned on for that to go across to all the signatories. All right, so those are some of the signing options that we've implemented. And the last one there I wanted to talk about is the corporate trustee positions that we've displayed in the signing lines as per the Trust Act. Now, this was also brought to our attention by some clients. So to implement this, the positioning needs to be set up correctly in CAS 360. So let's run through a few scenarios. So I'll jump into my trust screen now and have a look at a trust transaction. So with this specific trust, you'll see I've set up a few different relationships here. So let's have a look at, I've got a corporate trustee here, Arrowwood Limited, and I've also got another one here, BGL Second Account Limited. So let's have a look at the first one here, corporate trustee Arrowwood Limited. If I go into that contact, let's assume that Arrowwood Limited is not a company that I manage in my CAS 360. So in that scenario, I would have the contact just set up in my contact screen. So I've set it up as a company in my contact screen. And because Arrowwood Limited can't sign the documents, you need to assign a representative to sign on behalf of Arrowwood. You would go into the representative screen and assign those representatives. So you can attach multiple representatives. So here we go. We've got multiple representatives here. So I've got Joe and I've got Shami here signing on behalf of Arrowwood Limited. Going back into the trust, let's have a look at this one here. I've got BGL Second Account Limited. Now, this company, let's say, is a company that I already manage in my CAS 360 company selection screen. In that scenario, I can link the company to the contact that I have created in my contact screen. So to do this, if I go into my contact screen and search for BGL Second Account, you can see that I have set that up as a contact, as a corporate contact or company contact in my contact screen. But what I can do is under my information section here, I can select the option that says linked company and link it to the company that I have in my company selection screen. So I've already set that up there. So let me quickly show that to you. So I have it linked to the company that I have selected in my company selection screen. In this scenario, I don't need to assign the representatives. What CAS 360 will do is if you have the company linked, it will automatically select the directors of the company and display the directors as the signatories signing on behalf of BGL Second Account. So because I have linked it here, let's have a look at how the documents are displayed. If I go into my prepare form screen and have a look at my trustee resolution here, in the trustee resolution, you need all the trustees signing on behalf of all the trustees signing. So you'll see for Arrowwood Limited, where it's a company that's not managed in CAS 360, it will say Joe is representing Arrowwood Limited. However, for the companies that you are managing in CAS 360, where we had BGL Second Account, it'll now display the director's name. So it'll say John David Brown as a director of BGL Second Account. And it'll say Ryan as a director of BGL Second Account. So the wording slightly differs in the signatory portions of your document. So it just depends on how you have set it up in your contact screen. All right, so a number of options there around signing that we have implemented. Let's move on to our next feature. The next main one is a brand new workflow that we implemented around voluntary administration. Now, as you know, there is no API, or there's no way for us for software to file the voluntary administration information to company's office. However, we've built a workflow for you to generate the relevant documents as a company is going through voluntary administration. So to do this in CAS 360, you go into company selection. I'll just pick one of my test companies here. You simply need to go into your general details screen, and then under company status, you change your status from registered to voluntary administration. As soon as you select the option there, you'll see a prepare forms button that appears. You'll simply select the option and up comes the workflow that you need to follow. Step one is appointing an administrator. Now we use the company's office guidelines to build this workflow. And as you already know, the appointment, the direct statements, creditors meetings, and the watershed meeting will occur at different points in the cycle of running through voluntary administration. So you can always come back into this screen and prepare those documents as the company is going through those phases. So step one is appointing your administrator. So you'd simply select the administrator. So I've just selected Shami. Appointed by here, you have a few options, the company, liquidator, creditor, and so on, and you can put in your appointment date. Once that's done, you can hit the next button and move on to the director's statement. Now, this is just a sample that I had previously added in. The director's statement does not come with a template, so it does look like this. So this is where the directors inform of the financial affairs of the company and the nature of business and the relationships and the properties and things like that that it holds, and the status of the company. So the directors, so there is, because for every single company, the statement would be different. We haven't implemented a template. You'll just need to copy paste that information in if you've already got an existing template and update it for this specific company. So it's pretty straightforward. Once you've added your details in, you can use the toolbar at the top to customize the wording further and format the wording further as well. So that's just a quick sample there. And then once the director's statement has been prepared, then you can move on to your creditor's minute. So a creditor's meeting. So this is your meeting notice. So we do have a sort of a sample that it's already built into the workflow. However, you can customize it as you want as well. So the creditors meeting basically discusses what's mentioned in the director's statement, and based on the information provided in the director's statement, the creditors discuss the future of the company and what needs to be done, what needs to be discussed, and so on. So you can add in the meeting details here. And your final step is your watershed meeting. Again, the watershed meeting is your final part of the workflow where the creditors decide if the company will go into administration or if it will reinstate and go back to the registered status as well. So the final decisions there. So as I mentioned before, all this will occur at different points during the cycle of the voluntary administration for the company. So you can always come back and prepare these documents as and when needed. So we've just added the workflow, the step-by-step workflow here. And once you're ready, you can simply click on the Save and Prepare document, and that will prepare all the documents in one go. So I've got your director resolution here. This will talk about the appointment of the administrator. Then you've got the consent to act as an administrator here. Then your director's statement. So the director's statement is basically the text that we just copied and pasted in the previous module, added into the statement format. Similarly with the notice of creditors meeting as well. So the CAS 360 skeleton had now included the text that was added previously. And with the notice of watershed meeting as well, it's the same details there as well with the skeleton around it. So pretty straightforward. We simply need to key in the details into the voluntary administration workflow, and that will generate the relevant documents for you. As always, you can download them and send them to your clients and sign them and so on. So this is phase one of sort of the document or company wind up liquidation and removal workflow. So we've started off with voluntary administration, and over the next few releases or over the next year, you'll be able to see us building on this workflow and implementing more around company removals and liquidations. So once you've processed the transactions and prepared the documents, the company status will update. And of course, if the company status changes back to a registered company, you can always come in here and change the status to registered. All right, let's have a look at the next features. Next, let's jump into director's interest and have a look at some improvements that we've implemented. So with director's interest, as you know, it is a manual data entry workflow. It is not something we can easily import in. Users are currently keying in the information manually. However, it is a mandatory register that you should maintain. So with director's interest, if you go into your company, you'll see the director's interest button under the officer screen, and you'll see director's interest here. You have a couple of options. You have add directors and review director's interest. So let's have a look at adding in a quick director's interest. So let's, when you click on the add button, up comes the modal. You'll be able to see all the directors that are assigned to that specific company. So let's say I'll pick Shami and say I'm going to key in some financial interest that Shami has with another company. So let's say nature of director's interest. I'll say financial interest in ABC Limited. I can add in the details for that as well here. If there's a value that I know, I can key in the value as well. So you can key in the relevant information and hit the save button and basically repeat the steps for the other directors and so on. What we did was, as a part of the director's interest improvements, we noticed that a lot of clients were adding in sort of relationships Shami has with other companies in your CAS 360. So for example, let's say if Shami is a director of ABC Limited, Shami is a shareholder of XYZ Limited, and so on. And if you have that data already in CAS 360, what we have done is we've added a few options for you to easily be able to import that information into your director's interest screens instead of manually keying this information in. So what you can do is if you click on update all linked directors interests just at the top here, CAS 360 will go through and have a look at all the directors assigned to this specific company and have a look at their links to all the other companies. And we will import the directorships and the shareholdings for those specific directors. So you can see by one specific button that the information has been added in. So hopefully that makes the process a bit easier as well. One thing we haven't done is an automatic update of the director's interest. So let's say, for example, I know that Shami is a director of this specific company, Arctic Night Limited. And let's say if I go into Arctic Night and I will resign Shami as a director. So say resigned, a marker as resigned here in this specific company. Once that's done, if I go back into my previous company and go back into my director's interest screen, I'll go into my review screen where I can see the summary. You'll still see that Shami is still appointed as a director for that specific company. So at this stage, we don't automatically update if the transaction has been updated. We left it to the CAS 360 user to update it. Just depends. We just wanted to see on feedback on how clients use the director's interest screen and implement those updates if necessary. However, if there are changes like that and you want to update your director's interest screen, at any point in time, you can come in and click on this update buttons here or update button at the top, and that will do a full refresh of the entire screen. So for example, if I click on the update linked directors here, you'll see that it added in the seize date for this specific directorship. So those are a couple of improvements we've added around director's interest, and another one we've implemented now is just under the print button here where you're able to print your director's interest register. You have a little arrow now where you can print your current register or your historical register. So the current register will remove any seized transactions and only display the current transactions, and the historical register will include all the seized transactions as well. All right, so that's your director's interest. Let's jump into the next couple of features. So the next one is your shareholder view. So this one's a good one here. Under your shareholder screen, as your company grows, you'll see a lot of transactions and your transaction screen building with all your share issues, your share transfers, cancellations, and so on. What we've implemented is on your top left-hand corner, you'll now be able to see a toggle between the transactional view and the current shareholder view. So if you toggle that option on here, you'll be able to see your current shareholder view or a balance view. So you see all the transactions have disappeared now, and you'll see the shareholder name, the number of shares, and the percentage that the shareholder holds. So this would be similar to what you usually see on the Companies Office website, provided the data is exactly the same, your CAS 360 data is accurate against your Companies Office data. Ideally, the shareholder screen, the number of shares and the percentages should match up. So some clients prefer the transactional view, some clients prefer the balance or the current view. So if you prefer the current view and you want to set that as a default, we now have a little star button where you can set it as a default. Once you've done that, every time you go into any of your shareholder screen, it'll start with the balance view. And of course, you can toggle on to your transactional view as well. You can still add in your transactions in the balance view as well. So you simply have the add transaction button to add in your share transactions there. All right, so that's a quick one there. Let's have a look at another one with company notes in document production. So as you know, in CAS 360, you can assign notes to your companies or notes to your trusts. A lot of clients use these notes as sort of a reminder or a quick way to say something that you have to do for that specific company. Now, I've got a couple of examples that I've set up for this company here. I've got Arrowwood Limited. I've got 2 notes attached there. And you can see for the first one, I've said all the documents must be reviewed by Shami before sending to client, which means any documents that I prepare for Arrowwood must be approved by Shami before it goes out. Also, I've said for the month of October, use Joe's secondary email. So basically use Joe's personal email address. So a couple of reminders that I've assigned as a note here. So we always display the notes in your main screen, in your company selection screen. Just in our last CAS 360 update, we've implemented the notes in your document production screen as well. So if you've added those little reminders and go into your transaction screen, go into your document production screens, you'll now be able to see the company notes at the top of your screen here. So if I click here, you'll be able to see. So you can, before processing your transactions, you can have a quick look and see, oh, okay, I need to review these documents by Shami. I need to use Joe's secondary email address. So it's a quick, good example of, adding in those reminders or key points for a specific company. So you see the notes button in all your document production screens now. Similarly, it's available under your trust screens as well, and you'll see them under your trust document production screens as well. So if you assigned a note there to your trust, you'll be able to see that as well. So that's a quick one there. Let's have a look at the next feature. The next one is your document review screen. With document review, improvement that we've implemented is the review by column. So under documents review, as you know, all your documents that you send out in CAS 360 can be sent to an internal review before we send it out to the clients to sign the document. So now in your review screen, previously we only had the prepared by column where you could see the user who prepared the documents, but now you can see who reviewed and approved or reject those documents as well. So you'll see a reviewed by column there as well. So you can see some of my documents have been accepted by Shami. This one has been rejected. Some of them are still waiting. So you can sort of cross-check the details as well. So a bit more information in your review column, review screen. The next item is your AML compliance and the send to reviewer workflow that we built. So let's jump into your company and jump into your compliance screen. As you know, under your compliance screen, we've got a number of steps. I won't go through all the steps, but once you've added in your initial compliance workflow or compliance information for your companies, done your identity checks, your source of funds, and so on, what we do is remove this one here. What we do is you'll be able to key in the completed by user there. So in this scenario, you can see that Andy has completed all the steps at the front here at the top. And your next step is to send it to a second reviewer. Now, the second review workflow had a coming soon button, and we finally implemented that. So what you need to do is Andy can click on send to reviewer here and send it to internal review. So just for the demo today, I'll just send it to myself. And you can send any notes as well. I can say this is urgent, please review. And I'll hit the send button. So with the send to review workflow as well, what we did was we built the workflow similarly to what we've done with all our other CAS 360 document production screens, as you're already used to those workflows. So it works the same way. So you can see now Andy has prepared it now, and it's been now sent to Shami to review. And as you work through the review workflow as well, you'll see our CAS 360 alerts for AML get updated as well. So now under Arrowwood Limited, you'll be able to see that a yellow alert has popped up at the end. And if I click on that, it'll say compliance review required. So it says that it's pending review. So if I go into my document screen, have a quick look at my email. So I'm the reviewer. I've received an email here saying it needs to be reviewed. I can click on review document, and that'll take me to my document screen here. So under my review document screen, you'll see for Arrowwood, I'll need to review my compliance reports. It's pending review, and I'll click on review documents. When you click on review documents, you'll see the note as well that was sent across, and you'll be able to see the AML compliance report, basically a summary of all the details that Andy had keyed in to the AML compliance workflow for that specific company. So you can review the document, and then you can either reject or approve that document. You can add in notes as well. You can send a message back to Andy as well saying it's approved or good to go or rejected and a reason why it's rejected and so on. So let's say I have approved this document and it's all good to go. And once that's done as well, you'll be able to see your alert will be cleared once your compliance workflow has been approved. And also if I jump into my compliance tab and jump into my last tab, right at the end here, it'll now say reviewed by, it's filled in the reviewed by section, and it says the date completed as well. And at this point, you will need to record the next review date as well. So What is usually recommended is a 2-year review, or depending on the risk rating of this company, you may have to do a yearly review as well. So based on the company that you are working on, you will need to record your next review date as well. And that way CAS 360 can give you the alerts on the main screen when you need to run through the workflow again. So those are all the topics that I wanted to discuss around new features that we've added into CAS 360. Let's have a look at some of the topics that were suggested by users or the registered attendees today. So these were some of the topics that where clients wanted a bit of a refresher. So thank you for those of you who sent through your suggestions. So I'll run through these now. The first one is a refresher on company registrations and the workflow. Let's have a look at managing duplicate contacts and how best to maintain the database in CAS 360. Along with that, health checks and live checks as well in CAS 360. And we'll have a look at some error handling, especially when we receive lodgement errors from company's office and how to read those lodgement errors. All right, let's jump into company registrations. So you can process company registrations in CAS 360 on your main screen. You've got your second tab here, company registrations. Now, this is a two-step process. You must reserve the company name in CAS 360 before you can process a company registration. Now, I know we do have clients who have reserved company names on the company's office website, and then you would like to process the registration in CAS 360. Unfortunately, this is not an option because company's office doesn't allow for it. So if you want to process the registration in CAS 360, the name reservation must be done through CAS 360 as well. So under the name reservations tab, pretty straightforward. You click on add name reservation, select your jurisdiction, pick the company type here. So I'll select limited company and give it select add your company name here. As soon as you tab out of this section, it'll tell us if the company name is available. So we would do a check against the company's office website, and it'll appear in green here if it is available. And if it is not available, it'll appear in a red arrow would appear here. At this point here, you're able to select your authorized agent as well. So your RealMe login. So whoever's going to file this name reservation, simply select that person's details here and select save and prepare documents. Once the transaction is ready, you can either send them off to the client if you need approval. If not, you can straight away file that transaction with company's office. Now, once you file a name reservation with company's office, there is a bit of a wait time, usually around 24 hours or so, because there is a person on the company's office side who manually approves these name reservations. So while you're waiting for your reservation to be approved, you will see that your name will appear as pending and it'll say awaiting reservation till that name reservation has been approved. Once approved, CAS 360 does an overnight check and it'll check the status of your name reservation and it'll update the status to reserved if it has been approved. Also, let's say you filed a transaction yesterday or this morning and it was approved within a couple of hours, you can always re-trigger it. So in this screen here, you can simply select the refresh button and CAS 360 will update the status if it has been approved immediately as well. So once the company name has been approved, you have 21 working days to approve the company, to register the company. In CAS 360, you can see I have a few here that I had previously prepared. So these ones, I have 9 days to reserve or register this company before they expire. So you can see that we keep track of the days as well before the name expires. So that's the name reservation process. Once the name's reserved, you can jump into the registrations tab and start through the company registration workflow. So company registrations is pretty straightforward. You simply need to follow the steps that we have built for you. Again, first thing you need to do is pick the previously reserved company name. So I'll select my Realme login here. I've said that I have approved and reserved this company name before, and I'll jump into registrations, and up comes an 8-step or 9-step process here. So you start with details, you pick your reserved name. So you see a list of your reserved names here. So I have 2 here under this specific Realme login. So I'll pick that one. And then it selects your company type because you already set it when you're reserving the company name. You can set your annual return month as well. And then you jump to the next section, addresses. Pretty straightforward. You can add your new addresses or attach from an existing address database as well. And as you work through the information on the screen, CAS 360 will show you error messages or warnings to make sure that you're adding in all the mandatory fields. So for a company registration, an email address is mandatory. So you'll see that email is mandatory and all these addresses as well. With the phone numbers, one thing you need to remember is if you are sending phone numbers across, it needs to be in a specific format, especially when filing via software. So you can see that I've given an example here. So you would need to put in your area codes and country codes and so on. And you need to implement the little dashes there as well when you're adding in the phone numbers. So you make sure that you follow that format and hit next. Then you go into your officer screen where you key in your directors of the company. So simply got the directors here. You'll need to key in directors' birth details as well. So I've got Shami here. I've got residential address, birth details, IRD numbers. If you've got as well, you can key them in and hit save. And you repeat for the next director and so on. Similarly with your shareholders as well, straightforward, you click on add shareholder and follow the information on the screen. So you can add in your shareholder details, add in your share type and the number of shares and so on. And again, you repeat for the shareholders. The next step is your ultimate holding company. If you have an ultimate holding company, toggle the option on and follow the information on the screen. The next few steps are important ones here. So you've got your tax registration. First, you'll need to key in your industry code. And then if you would like to apply for the company IRD number, you simply need to toggle this option on and then key in the details. Now with the IRD number, the information that you have added in here, CAS 360, when you file the company registration, we will pass that information on to the company's office team, and company's office will pass it on to the team that processes the IRD numbers and communicate with you via email to send across that IRD number. So it doesn't come through CAS 360. The IRD number is a separate team that processes it on the company's office side. So that information will be passed on and then move on to the Inland Revenue and so on. So that's your registration process. Then you've got your register as an employer, your tax representative process, and so on. Very similar to what you would do on the company's office website. It's just that CAS 360 will show you the mandatory fields to make sure all your data is correct before you file the registration. Similarly with your GST registration as well, you can toggle it on and then add in the details as required. Once you've completed the workflow, under the Finish section here, we'll show you a quick summary of all the data that you have keyed in so that you can review it before you send them off to your client. Once you've completed the process, you can click Save and Prepare, and CAS 360 will generate your pre-incorporation document. So for pre-incorporation, we prepare a registration summary with all the data that you can send off to the client, and we'll also pre-fill your Form 2 and your Form 3. So your Form 2 for the directors of the company that they will need to sign, and you'll need to file them across, and then similarly with your Form 3s as well for your consent for your shareholders. So you can follow the standard CAS 360 workflow, email them to your clients or send them via digital signing, and then they'll sign the documents and then it'll come back into CAS 360. Once the documents have been signed, you're able to file them through the document screen. I'll show you one that I had previously prepared. So here we go, company registrations. If I expand this here, you'll be able to see the company registration transaction first, and then you've got your director appointments transaction and your shareholder consent transactions. So one line per director and per shareholder. So step one is you need to complete this step here first. You need to file that transaction first, and then you can upload the signed documents one by one and then file them as well. Once the top level transaction has been sent across successfully to company's office, you can upload the consent forms and file them as well. So you must make sure that the consent forms are uploaded here and they're signed. Once the entire transaction has been processed or filed across to company's office, again, similar to company name reservations, there is a bit of a wait time because there's someone on the company's office side manually approving those consent forms. So till then, you'll see the pending status against your transactions. And then once approved, the transactions will automatically update, or the status will automatically update, and it will change to registered. And once it's registered, this company will move across to your company selection screen, and we will insert the NZBN number that company's office sends back to CAS 360. And also, as a part of the company registration workflow, once the company is registered, CAS 360 also prepares your post-incorporation documents, which are your first directors meeting minutes and your first registers for that company as well. So all that is available. So that is the entire company name reservation and registration workflow. Let's have a look at some managing duplicate contacts and database maintenance in CAS 360. So why are duplicate contacts created in CAS 360? There could be a number of reasons, bad data coming from company's office or importing data. There could be different versions of the same person, a John Brown attached to company A, a John David Brown attached to a company B, and so on. There could be data spelling mistakes, that you've made when you were doing data entry into CAS 360. There could be a number of reasons. So how do you maintain this and how best to handle these duplicate records? The first thing you would probably need to do is go into your global contact screen and use the find matches screen. Now you have to be really careful because any changes that you make here may trigger your health checks and live checks as well. So you must be conscious that whatever changes and fixes that you're doing here, you may have to do them on the company's office side as well to clean up your database. So under the Find Matches screen, you do have a few options here. So you'll see your full name and address, full name only, and full name and surname as well. So you can simply toggle them on, and CAS 360 will match the contacts database in various ways to find those matches. So here I've selected full name and addresses to find the matches that have the name and the address exactly the same. So this one's a good example. Here you can see I have Emma Jones here with the same address, but two specific Emmas here. But you can see that one Emma Jones has a relationship. If I hover over it, you can see that is an office holding for this Emma Jones of this specific company. But this Emma, the second Emma, does not have any relationships. So perhaps I accidentally added this Emma again, or it was attached to one of my deactivated companies and no longer in use. So at this point, I can look at these two transactions and decide, okay, I can clear this second Emma. I only need the first Emma in my database. So you can simply select the keep button at the top here, and that will remove this second Emma from the CAS 360 database. Similarly, if you have a look at the second transaction here, the second block here, you'll be able to see I have Emma Jones again with two different addresses, but the first Emma has 13 relationships, the company contacts, office holdings, shareholdings, and so on of many companies. And I have this Emma with this address, linked to just one company or as a representative. So you'll need to, however, the email addresses are different and the birth details are different, you know. So you will need to investigate and see if this relationship needs to be merged into this one or if this can be cleared and so on. Again, in this scenario, I would say leave the top one here that has most of the relationships, and you would click on the keep button, which will merge this relationship in the second lot back into this, or insert it into the first relation at the top level here. So as you work through your Find Matches screen, be careful, as some of the changes that you're making here are just changes for the CAS 360 database. So the overnight checks with your live checks and health checks, them might occur, and you might need to go and update on the company's office side as well. Another one here is under your full name only. So if you remove addresses from the selection or from the matches section, and find the scenarios where only your name matches, you'll be able to see quite a few that come up as well. So that'll be a useful one to investigate further as well. Let's jump into having a look at some error handling and lodgement errors in CAS 360. As you know, when you file transactions to company's office, we do have document screens. Sorry, I'm just jumping in. My screen is taking a while to update. That's not great. Looks like website's down for a minute. I'll have a look. All right, maybe we'll come back to that last bit again. What I'll do is I'll jump into some of our BGL ID enhancements that we had implemented. So let's have a look at BGL ID. As I mentioned before, I'm sure most of you are aware of how BGL ID works. We've gone through it a number of times. With BGL ID, we've got two main options. We've got request ID verifications, where you can send out an email to a client in CAS 360 and they would upload their ID details and verify. You will receive the verified information or the report into CAS 360. Or you have a second option, which is your verify ID option, where the client has given you the ID details and you can simply key that information in and then receive an instant result in CAS 360. So with BGL ID, just over the last few releases, we've added a number of improvements. So I'll just run through those. The first one is a mandatory ID upload that we've implemented. This is mainly for those clients who've had a few typos and errors when they're keying in the details. We've also added options where you can set a default verification type as well. And also, if there are any verifications that fail, we now send an unsuccessful email to the client as well, just so they're aware of the status of the transaction that they're processed. And there's now options to void the verification as well. In case you've sent out an email accidentally to the client, or it was the incorrect email address, you can always void those verification requests as well. So a number of changes that we have implemented there. Let's have a quick look if this is up and running. That's great. So I'll jump into my global contact screen, and I have a contact that I have set up here. So I have Samantha sample here that I have set up. If I go to Sam's record here, at the top, you'll be able to see the request ID verification button. So if I click on that here, up comes the modal where I can select the options. As always, you have to toggle on depending on the ID type or the check that you need to do. And what we've done is we can now set that as a default as well. In general, at your practice, if you're always sending out for biometric checks, you can simply select the star icon and default that option as well. Or you can always change it depending on the client that you are working on. The other option that I mentioned before was the request mandatory ID upload toggle. So for the transactions where the clients manually key in their ID details on their side, you can force them to upload the ID so that CAS 360 can scan the documents themselves and pre-fill the details to avoid those typo scenarios. So let's have a look at that, a quick example that I have here. So I've sent off that email to Sam. So for Sam to do their ID verification, in case I've made a mistake, I'll select the drop-down menu here, and you'll now be able to see the void verification option as well. So you can always stop that verification so that Sam won't be able to process that. And that's one of those new items we've implemented as well. So I jump into my emails and I redirected Sam's emails to myself. So here we go. So this is what Sam would see. You'll click on the ID verification, proceed to ID. So up comes the modal and you click on add identification, and I'll click on driver's license. So at this point, because I clicked on the mandatory ID upload, you'll be able to see that Sam can't key in the details and this bit is blurred out, and they will need to upload a scanned copy of the driver's license. So I have a sample that I had already example here. So let's say I'll drag and drop that to the images section here. CAS 360 will scan through that driver's license and upload the information into the ID fields. All right, perfect. So you can see the information has been uploaded. You can always cross-check the details and then simply hit the submit button. So Sam hits the submit button and then the identification details come back to CAS 360. Now, in this example here, I made sure that it was a failed identity. So you can see that the identity failure details immediately come across to CAS 360. If it is the first time, it'll send a request again to Sam because we do a free ID verification. If it fails, you do a second round as well. And if it doesn't fail, and if it fails the second round as well, this time Sam will also receive an unsuccessful email as well, just so that they know that they can follow up with yourself or the CAS 360 user or the practice to make sure what happened and why the ID failed and so on. I'll quickly just jump back into one of the points that I missed earlier. So reading your error messages that you receive from company's office. Let's have a look at some quick rejection messages. So this one's a good example here. Sometimes companies, once you file a transaction to company's office, you don't receive any errors from company's office. In this scenario, if you've got an error here, and if it doesn't give you an error message, this means the transaction hasn't gone across to company's office. This means there must have been a connection dropout or an internet issue or something like that, and that's why the transaction has not gone across. In this scenario, you would need to reprocess the transaction and re-prepare the transaction to send this off to company's office. Now, the reason we show it as a rejection is because we want to show you that it needs to be actioned, and that is why it's displayed in red. However, if there is no error message or if you receive something similar, you will need to make sure that it is reprocessed. Sometimes company's office sends us errors such as this. So if you hover over it, you'll be able to see the error message. And this one's a good one here because it says attributes cannot be updated. Unfortunately, some of these errors is not that user-friendly, or it's hard to understand, you know. So most of the time clients end up logging a support call with us, and we need to investigate with Companies Office why it was rejected. So we are currently working with Companies Office and passing on this feedback to them to make sure this information is a bit better when they're sending that information or the rejection messages across to us. So if there are errors that you cannot understand, definitely still follow the same workflow. Get in touch with Ra or get in touch with our support team, and we will be able to guide you through the process. And then this one here is a good one. So this is a scenario where Companies Office is giving you a detailed error message. So this is where they're telling us that the ACN is incorrect. So because of that, you'll be able to go back and reprocess the transaction, double check the ACNs and so on. So sometimes they do give you some detailed messages, but sometimes they give you a cryptic message that might not be that useful as well. But the main thing that I wanted to point out is a scenario where you will not receive an error message, and most of the time that means you will need to reprocess those transactions. All right, let's jump into our final step. Apologies for that delay before, but our final step is just to run through what's coming soon. Some exciting changes around trust administration. You might have already seen in our last update, we've added a new administration tab under our trust screen, and you'll see we've already combined the other details and tax details tab under the administration. And over the next few releases, you'll see some new screens for statement of wishes, annual documents, variation of trust deeds, and trust windup as well. Lots of documents that we'll be adding around these workflows. We're also looking at compliance role authority improvements, so around AML compliance as well, allowing different users to have access to certain screens. We're working on a brand new annual return workflow as well to improve your processes, and we'll have a look at implementing CAS 360 and AI to improve some of your processes in CAS 360. Before we wrap up the session, I'll show you a quick sneak peek of what we have lined up. If you have, or if you joined RegTech, you may have already seen a little bit of this earlier this year.
Meet Ronnie, the newest member of the BGL team. So, who is Ronnie? And what can he do? Ronnie is your AI assistant, now available in CAS 360, Simple Fund 360, and Simple Invest 360. He's here to support you with answers, actions, and insights. Got a question? He can guide you through your BGL software, retrieve firm-wide or entity-specific info in seconds, search official ATO sites for compliance and law info. Need to take action? Ronnie can generate charts, reports, and visual diagrams, convert files, and summarize data with ease, draft customized client communications, and much more. Ronnie is part of your BGL software and will always be there when you need him. Try Ronnie in CAS 360, Simple Fund 360, and Simple Invest 360 today.
So you'll start seeing Ronnie in CAS 360 soon. I'll show you a quick sneak peek of one of the email workflows that we're looking at improving as well. So with Ronnie and when implementing AI in CAS 360, what we did was we had a look at the workflows that are used by our clients often, and one of them was the emails. So we'll have a look at how can we implement or improve our email workflows. So with the emails here, it talks about the transaction and the signatories and the documents that go across to the client. What we have now is Ronnie who can rebuild the email. So you'll see Ronnie that pops up at the top. You can use Ronnie and he will run through and scan the transaction you're processing, scan the email that you're processing, and rebuild that email and give you a newer version of the email as well. So here we go. This is sort of a quick example of what it can look like. So it says, for Arrowwood Limited, these are the documents that are waiting signature. It gives you a summary of the changes, the documents, and who should be the signatories of the documents. So a nice email that's created by Ronnie. And of course, you can customize it further as well by using the formatting options at the top. And if you didn't like this, you can use Ronnie again and then Ronnie can create another version of the emails as well. So this is just an example of how you'll see us utilizing some of these new features in the next year or so.